Welcome back, Design and Technology students. This next video is going to be a bit of an amalgamation of all the skills that we've learned in the past few videos, and we're going to be using them to create a complex 3D object. So to do this, you're going to need to know how to use the line tool, the rectangle tool, the push-pull tool, and you'll need to be confident in using guides as well. So the object we're making is this funny looking 3D object here. And we've seen measurements for most areas, but some of them we're going to have to figure out ourselves just using kind of deduction here. Okay, so, and I've just got an example here as well of what it looks like as a finished SketchUp drawing. So as you can see, you know, it's that same funny shape, just minus the all the measurements there. Okay. So let's get started with this. Now with these kind of complex drawings, there isn't, necessarily one correct way to start it, but it's always wise to start from the bottom. So we're going to be starting off with a rectangle that's 40 by 50 millimeters. And you can see there's bits missing here, but we're going to use the line tool and the guides and the remove tool or the eraser tool to get rid of those, to create those gaps there. But I think it's important to start with the 40 by 50, the kind of broadest, largest shape, and then work back from there. So let's get started with that. So with our tool here, we're going to say 50 by 40. Or in this case, sorry, 40 by 50. So 40, 50. And that's the general shape of the base of that object that we're going to be drawing here. So we got 40 by 50. So the next thing we're going to do is put in guides for the lines that we see across here. So we can see that there's a gap of 15 in the middle. So if we subtract 50 from 15, we get 35, and we can kind of, deduct from that each of these lines is 17.5, which is half of 35, sorry. So let's go and put those lines in. So with our measurement tool, we're going to go 17.5. We're going to go 17.5 from the other side. And we're going to put those guide marks across, joining on the axis there. We can also see on this drawing that there's another gap. So the bigger gap at the top is 25, which means that it's 10 millimeters bigger as a total, so 5 on either side. So let's go and put in those 5 millimeter marks there as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is make this line permanent. And we're going to make this line permanent as well. Now what we're going to do here is, this is a gap. This doesn't exist in the drawing. If we have a look. Let's have a look here. Just make sure we've got our measurements right. So it's definitely 15. There's definitely a 15 millimeter gap in the drawing that we're copying here. So let's get rid of that on our SketchUp drawing. So we can either use the eraser tool and just erase different sections, or what I'm going to do is select each part that we want to erase and then press delete. So you're going to have to delete those lines there as well. Okay, so there's the base that we're going to be working out from. We can see that this is kind of a block section here that's been raised. So we know that this has to be raised 5 because it's 10 total and half of that's 5. So let's go ahead and raise those 5, I guess, actually. So using our push-pull tool, let's go up 5 here and 5 here as well. So this we can go up to the 5 here. Then we're going to raise it up an extra 5 there. All right. So we've got, the base of this object here. So we've essentially got, this bit, and then kind of up to that 10 mark. So what we need to do is put, there's no more gap here, there's a solid object. So we're going to put a rectangle mark across so we can just raise it up that next little bit. So on SketchUp, we're going to use our rectangle tool. And this is a process we haven't covered in the other videos, but we're going to go from this side here to this side here. So, the kind of opposite diagonal points on the rectangle. And we're going to click on that to close off that shape. And then using our select tool, we're going to get rid of that mark there and that mark there, just so that when we raise it up, we're raising up the entire thing, because that's what it looks like in the drawing. So it's time to figure out how high we need to raise this section. So from the base until the top of this other kind of jagged bit is 30. The jagged bit's 10, so that's 20 in total for this smaller raised object. So we've already raised it 10, so we need to raise it another 10 millimeters. We're going to do that using the push-pull tool. So as you can see here, we've lost a little bit of hasn't created a solid object there. So I'm just going to finish that off there by doing the same thing we did, joining those two diagonal axes with the rectangle tool, the diagonal points, sorry. So you just got to orbit it until you can see both points. That point there, that point there. There we go. Okay, so at this point we can probably get rid of the guides as well. Let's raise each bit up. So another 10. Maybe I was a bit hasty to get rid of those marks there. All right, we're going to raise this 10 as well. And finally, this one will go to 10. So there we go. So we've got this part of the object done here. So that should be 20 high from the base till this point at the top of the kind of solid object, not the jagged bit. So let's just put in our dimensions to we'll measure it just to make sure. So that's 20 millimeters, so we're spot on here. And this should be 10, perfect. The next one should be 5. Spot on. All right, so now what we can do, now that that's a solid object, we can use the select tool and get rid of those lines. And we can also get rid of these lines as well if we really want to, just to make the drawing look a bit neater. So we can see on the drawing that we're copying here that this line kind of goes right down the center, and it's 8 millimeters wide at the base, and then at the top it kind of makes a T shape and it's 15 millimeters wide, and each portion of that is 5 millimeters high. So let's go in and put a guide mark in. we know that this is 40 millimeters wide, so let's put a guide mark for 20, which is halfway across, so right down the middle. We're going to put our guide mark in there. We're going to put another guide here for 4 either side of the center point, because it's 8 millimeters wide on that middle bit. I'm just going to join onto the axes to make sure we've got nice straight drawings. And again, we're going to remove the guides. So using the push and pull tool, we're going to go up 10, because that's how tall, you know, the extent of that jagged bit is. And next we're going to make these jagged bits to pull out. So we're going to put a guide mark 5 millimeters down and then pull it out. Well, this gets a bit complex. We're going to minus 8 from 15. So we've got 7. So each of these things must come out 3.5 if we're using, you know, just deduction here. So we're going to put our guide marks. Five down each side. And we're going to put our permanent marks in there so we can actually pull it out. We'll do this one first, so we'll pull this one across. 3.5, and we're going to orbit around to the other side, put in our permanent line, then pull that out 3.5 as well. And on this side we can, you know, tidy up our drawing as well, so we'll delete these kind of other line tool marks that we don't actually need anymore. Alright, so if we go back and have a look at it, there is our completed kind of funny object or more complex 3D drawing. And as you can see, it's a copy of the example that we have there. So what I'd like you guys to do is follow along with the video, you know, go back, rewind, stop, and I want you guys to have a go at creating this object. So the example drawing, the one that we're going off here, will be available next to the video as a PDF or a JPEG. So have a go at that, and after that we'll be ready to get into the more complex architectural drawings that we use SketchUp for.